Good morning, everybody. So today I'm going to demonstrate Jala Neti. Raise your hand if you've done Jala Neti before. I think most of you probably have, but this is a good revision, a good opportunity just to revisit the practice. I have Jala Neti pots for you, but if you've got your own, even better, then you can use the one that you're used to using. So the one that I use is quite good because it gives you the exact amount of water, which is about half a litre, and it also gives you the right type of spoon. So you can never get it wrong. You can never get the ratio salt to water wrong. Basically, it's half a litre to about half a teaspoon, to a flat teaspoon, sorry. So I like to use sea salt. You can use any salt that you like, as long as it's not got any anti-caking agents. You can use pretty much any salt that you like. So I'm going to just measure it with this spoon, just to make sure that it's about the same as a teaspoon would be. Put it in, give it a good mix. Make sure that it's fully dissolved, because if it doesn't fully dissolve, then you're going to end up either getting a burning sensation in your nose, or if there's not enough salt, if you haven't quite got the ratio right, then it ends up stinging the nose. So you can usually tell the difference. There's a sort of sucking, stinging sensation that isn't, and there's a burning sensation. You can kind of tell when it's too much or too little. So once you've got the water ready, make sure the water is not too hot, not too cold. It's about sort of baby bottle temperature. So however you measure your baby bottles, that's how you would do it, you know. Sorry? 57 degrees. There you go. Now there are a few tricks that that I've just learned from practice that you won't usually get in the books. So these tricks I'm just going to go over with you very briefly, so that you can try them out and see if they work for you. Make sure you have some tissues nearby, because immediately after the practice, what you're going to do is a very light Kapalabhati practice. So the first thing that you do is calm down. That's the thing, because if you do it when you're not calm, then it won't work, because often the body, in response to stress, the mucous membranes tend to contract, right? You know, everything contracts. That's why you go like that. And so, because they contract, you won't get that opening between the two nasal passages. And the body will just go on strike. So you'll just be like, nothing's happening. So calm down, maybe just do a few long exhalations. Know that everything is going to be okay. And if the water doesn't pass through the hole between the two nasal passages, it will simply flow down the back of the throat, and you can spit it out through the mouth. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to kill you. It'll be absolutely fine. In some techniques, they even do that deliberately, where they actually build the water up in the back of the throat and spit it out through the mouth, because that's another passage, really, that needs to be cleared, you see. So the next thing is to really just prepare the mind and the nose for the practice by just introducing water like that. Just introducing water into the nose without actually doing it. Because once that water touches the nostrils, you've done it a few times, once the water touches, then your body thinks, I know this, something's coming, right? So once you've introduced that water into the beginning of the nostrils, then already the mind-body connection is beginning to work better in preparation for Jala Neti. The next thing is to keep the mouth open. The angle is important, so you will make mistakes. If you get the angle wrong, the water will flow down the front of your body. If you get the angle wrong the other way, the water will flush up into your sinuses, and then you'll have a little bit more it'll take longer to get the water out. But either way, it's not a problem. So the mouth remains open, it's mouth breathing, and you place the nozzle against the nostril that you're starting with. It's half a pot per nostril. You introduce the water into the nasal passage, and you just let the water flow up the nasal passage, and then you wait. You wait for the body to let the water flow through, okay? So I'm going to do it now, then I'm going to stop speaking. And it may not happen immediately, but when it does happen, you'll see the water flow out the other side, and then you just have to keep it steady and not panic, okay? Just a light Kapalabhati. Okay? Simple as that. So one nostril will always be a little bit more blocked than the other. Why? What do we know about the yogic body?
Because the nostril is every 12 hours, so...
Every how long does it change?
Every 12 hours they took...
Not 12 hours. How often does it change?
20 minutes.
It's approximately every 90 minutes.
90.
Approximately every 90 minutes, what the flow of prana switches from one nostril, from Ida, which is which side? Ida, left, to Pingala, which is the right side. Ida is the lunar energy, Pingala is the solar energy. So this is why it's useful just to know what is active at the time that you're doing your Jala Neti. You can use a whole variety of things. You don't have to use salty water, though that's obviously the most practical. You can also use, if you're a vegetarian, you can also use your own urine, which has the perfect solvent. It is the perfect solvent, really, for the practice. I don't recommend it if you're not a vegetarian, because it can be too acidic, too much uric acid. But I'm glad you're not all flinching. But it is, it is actually it's an antiseptic. It's a good fluid to use. Yeah.
Which is the clearest? Should you start with the one that's clear?
I think when you're a beginner, start with what's clear, so that you can do. Once you've done one side, then it's usually the body just allows you to get to the other side. Because if you're a beginner and you're a bit nervous and you're not confident about it, starting with the blocked side, you're going to lose even more confidence. You're just going to be waiting there. And often people, what they do is they fill up the nasal passage with salty water, but they don't stop pouring. So then the water just starts pouring out the same nostril. And they think that they're doing it, but they're not. They're like, oh, but it's not. It's just coming out of the same nostril. So you have to recognize that feeling of when the water's flowing down the other nostril. See what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. And the best time to do that, it depends on your prakriti, how your relationship with the practice. So which prakriti is going to be the most relevant to this practice? Kapha. And why? That's it. Because the main waste product of kapha is mucus. So there's a lot of mucus building up in the sinuses, in the chest, congestion, and salty water is a perfect solvent for mucus. So what about the times of the year then that would be relevant in terms of your ritucharya, your seasonal practice? Some of the hay fever would be good. So if you're a hay fever type, you're going to have a kapha vata type of illness, which means that it's something that you can try to introduce. And I have had a good feedback from people who practice Jala Neti who have hay fever, and they say it does make a difference. I think, in Ayurvedic terms, kapha starts to build up in the winter. Why? Because it's cold and damp. It's cold and damp. So the two qualities, the two gunas of kapha, one of the two, or two of the two, is cold and damp. So those qualities increase in the environment, therefore they also increase in your body. So if you're a kapha type, that's also obviously going to increase faster, but everybody's kapha will increase to some extent. So this is the season that you can think about having a Jala Neti practice if this affects you. Which dosha may not need it so much? Vata, because Vata is dry. It's dry, so there's less likelihood. But you can still be a Vata type and have a kapha disorder. So when the kapha disorder season is coming, like hay fever, then you can prepare for it. Spring is kapha time. Winter into spring is kapha building. Kapha is at its peak in the spring. It builds up in the winter, and it's at its peak. It's absolutely full in the spring, which is why we get spring colds, and we try to get all the mucus out in the spring. The only thing that I would say about Jala Neti as a permanent practice for your dinacharya, remember the word dinacharya? Yes. Yeah? The problem with this is that introducing a salt water cleanse every single day onto your mucous membranes can deplete the immune system of the mucous membranes in the nose, and you don't want that. So I don't recommend it as a daily permanent dinacharya. Maybe if you're a kapha type, maybe a few times a week, every other day. Peak season, hay fever every day, but then that's it. The rest of the year, don't do it.
Maybe if you've got a cold, would that be good?
If you've got a cold, it can often accelerate, it can help you breathe better, clear out some of the mucus.
Anything else other than urine or salt? You wouldn't use oil, would you, if you've got a dry nose?
They say you can use buttermilk, which is basically lassi, but I don't recommend that. They also say you can use ghee, but I don't recommend that. I just recommend salt water or urine. In NHS, it's a standard practice. They sell little sachets, so if you don't want to mess around with all the salt, you can get these little sachets of 50-50 bicarbonate of soda with salt, and it's a much more pleasant experience on the nose. So it's a kind of a modern day version. Nasal douching, they have their own sort of squeezy things, but you can get the little sachets easily now. I think that's all. So the spiritual benefits of Jala Neti, it is described in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika as part of stage 2 of Hatha Yoga practice. So stage 1 is asana. Get on the mat, start to practice. Start to increase your agni, to clear your toxins. And then stage 2 are the cleanses, the kriyas, exactly. And Jala Neti is one of the kriyas that we have kept from that text. So the spiritual benefits of Jala Neti are that because you get this kind of opening and this cleansing, you have a greater access to Ajna chakra, to the third eye energy. There's a clearing in the sinuses, which enables a feeling of greater spaciousness in the head.